Hello and welcome back to another episode of Self Ruled. I am your host, Hannah Holden, and I'm so excited to be back this week talking about resistance. And so I wanted to start by asking you something. Have you ever set a big goal, felt really excited about it, but then you found yourself avoiding the very actions that would get you to your goal? If so, you're not alone. I've been there many times. And what you're experiencing is totally normal. You are experiencing something called resistance. So oftentimes when we set out in the direction of something we want, we feel this pushback. Almost like the more we want something, the more we see something, the more we experience that pushback, that resistance. And it can show up in the form of putting things off, not staying true to the goals that we've set, the habits that we've set. But I want to share a little bit about what the kind of textbook definition of resistance is. So it's the psychological tendency to avoid change or struggle against new behaviors, even when we want to grow. So that's that pushback that I was talking about. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about resistance, break it down a little bit, kind of why it happens, and what are some strategies you can do to overcome this so that you can continue to move forward in the direction of the things you really want. So going deeper, resistance is really a self-protection mechanism. And it's a pain in the butt, but it's really there to keep us in our comfort zone, to keep us safe, to keep us in what is predictable and familiar. And it sounds crazy because we can often see the goals that we have and how even the habits that we need to have to reach those goals are really good things, really healthy things. But a lot of times our body, our system, our psyche, whatever it is, just wants to run on autopilot. It wants to stay where things are familiar, predictable. So it's a total normal part of the process. So if you're experiencing resistance right now, it's totally normal. And resistance can show up in so many different ways in real life. It can show up in putting things off. So if you're a procrastinator, maybe avoiding things that are uncomfortable actions, uncomfortable conversations, maybe struggling to stay consistent with certain habits. So I mentioned, maybe we're not taking the habits or daily actions we need to. So maybe you're not staying consistent with working out or eating the healthier foods that you want to eat. Or, maybe you made a commitment to cut back on drinking, but you're feeling that resistance with it. It could be around eating healthier, starting a business. Maybe you have a desire to write a book or launch a podcast, something like that, but then you feel that resistance. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a analogy here or metaphor. I always forget what the difference is, but we're like a thermostat. So I don't know what temperature you like your thermostat at. For me, I like to set mine at 72 degrees. That's where I feel comfortable. So 72 degrees is my comfort zone. Wherever you're setting your thermostat, that's your comfort zone. So we're all living in our comfort zone, and you or I may have the realization that the version of ourself that we want to become exists in a different temperature. So for me, the idea, this woman that I want to become, she exists in 85 degree weather, right? And I know it, I can visualize her. But what happens is that once I try to turn the heat up, I try to start taking those actions, changing my habits, doing those things to become that 85 degree version of me, my AC kicks on. And the AC kicks on and tries to bring me back down to 72 degrees where I feel comfortable, where I feel, familiar, all of that. So that's your subconscious. Just like when you go after these big goals, you start to make the habit changes, and the AC kicks on. AC being your subconscious mind that wants to keep you where you are. And I have known people who kind of white knuckle it against their thermostat. I think about people that I've met who maybe they decide to go on an extreme weight loss journey where one week they're, out eating pizza and drinking beer, and the next week they're committed that they're going to eat, chicken breasts, broccoli and rice for the next 3 months every meal until they reach their goal. And so they're really trying to kind of override their system, trying to just in one fell swoop get up to their 85 degrees. But you will experience a lot of resistance. You will experience a lot of pushback because it's so far out of your comfort zone and what feels normal to you. Now, I do think that if you are one of those people that can sustain that for long enough, it may become comfortable to you. So then that becomes your new normal. But I think for most of us, I think for most of us, it's really difficult to go from 72 degrees to 85 degrees overnight. And just because of the sheer resistance we'll feel trying to make that much rapid change or take that much action that's different from where we're at right now. Another analogy of this is, I don't know if anyone tries to get steps. Let's say you're getting 2,000 steps right now, but you decide overnight that now you're going to be hitting 12,000 every day. It's a big leap. Whereas if you take smaller steps, and this is where things like the habit stacking come in. I don't know if you've heard of habit stacking, where you just do one thing at a time until that becomes natural, normal, easy. So maybe let's say you do one easy habit for a month. And after you succeeded with that, then you add another small habit onto that. And that's that habit stacking. And you continue to do that. And really the rule is that you can continue to add things as long as you can sustain them. And so that would be someone inching from the 72 degrees to 73 degrees to 74 degrees. And you do these things gradually over time until you can change the baseline of your temperature and you won't feel quite as much pushback. So we are very much like a thermostat when it comes to pursuing our goals, making habit changes, doing things that are uncomfortable or unfamiliar to us. So something else I wanted to talk about when it comes to resistance. So you have goals, right? You have this vision for your life. You started to make some changes in your daily habits, your daily actions to align with the goal that you have, but you're still going to feel resistance. And one thing I want to bring up is that when you feel that pushback, when you feel that resistance, it is good to get a little bit curious about what is the source of the resistance. Another question you could ask yourself is, what is this resistance trying to tell me? Because a lot of times when that resistance is really strong, it is trying to communicate with us. It might be trying to tell us, hey, you've bit off more than what is sustainable for you right now. It could be trying to tell us that. It could be trying to tell us, hey, this is a lot, I'm scared. So you could be having some fear-based resistance. Your resistance could be trying to tell you that the thing you keep trying to get yourself to do, that you don't actually want it. You don't actually want to do that thing. Your resistance could also be telling you that you shouldn't do it. And so I've experienced all of these, and that's why I kind of break resistance down into a few different camps. One being, I'm experiencing resistance because I'm scared, but sometimes even when I'm scared, even though I feel it and I can identify that that's the form of resistance, many times I still have to push through that because that is a natural part of going after something that is outside of my comfort zone. There will be that fear-based resistance that comes to me, and I have to be able to kind of stand the heat. You know, I've changed I've changed my temperature. I've changed the heat. So can I withstand a little bit of heat, right? I think in order to go after something out of your comfort zone, you have to be able to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, get a little uncomfortable. Quick aside, I needed some mindless television last night. I was watching Temptation Island. Don't judge me for the shows that I watch sometimes. But I think they have a therapist on there. I don't know if he's a therapist, but he acts like a therapist for all of the contestants on the island. But he said something last night that I wanted to talk about, because he says, if you're feeling uncomfortable, then something's happening. And I love that, because when we're too comfortable, that's when we get complacent. But when you feel uncomfortable, that can actually be a good sign, because it means that you're actually doing something. So that, I'm going to remind myself of that a lot. But that comes back to, yes, you might feel that discomfort, that fear, But as long as the thing that you're doing is in alignment with what you ultimately want, where you ultimately want to go, then it's still okay to put yourself in that discomfort. The other resistance that I mentioned was I don't want to do it. So it could be that, first of all, I'm scared to do it, or I don't want to do it. And this one's a little bit tricky because, for example, sometimes there are things that I have to do that I don't want to do. So in my business, there may be things that I don't want to do. Maybe there are things I don't like, but I know that I have to do them because they are a step in the direction of something that I ultimately want. So it can be that, or it can be I don't want it and it's actually taking me off track, off course. So that kind of resistance could be trying to tell me, hey, you know what? This doesn't really align with where we're trying to go. So, that resistance could be trying to talk to me in that way. And then this one is the one that usually comes through to me that is so clear, which is the resistance that shows up in the form of you shouldn't do that. And the you shouldn't do that is when I have this deep intuition, this deep knowing that, this doesn't feel quite right. I really don't think this is something I should be doing. And it wasn't always that way for me. Many years where I wasn't even aware of these subtle differences in the way that my intuition was trying to speak to me, or wasn't even aware the vast amount of knowledge, self-knowledge that I could tap into. So now that I've tapped into those things, I can really dig deeper with resistance when I feel it and kind of figure out, okay, am I just resisting this because it's scary or uncomfortable or boring, but it's still what I need to be doing? Or am I experiencing this resistance because it's truly not for me and detrimental for me? So I do encourage you, when you experience resistance, to just dig a little deeper into what may be the source of it. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the resistance equations. I came up with these just really reflecting on all of my experiences over the years, but especially I would say this personal growth journey that I've been on, I would say about the last 5 years or so. And when you're on a personal growth journey, you are working with yourself. It's not, there's a lot of beauty in that, because you're working with yourself, you're building a relationship with yourself, you're learning how to navigate the various intricacies of who you are, your psyche, the various forms of resistance you have. You're learning yourself. But these are kind of high level what I've learned as a person who is always trying to grow, always setting goals, wanting to continue to grow as a person and grow into the next level of who I see myself as. And I hope that these equations help you figure out maybe some of the shifts that you could make to clear some resistance and move closer to what you want. So here's the first equation. And these are really resistance equations that can tell you why people may or may not change. So the first resistance equation that I've come up with is this is when people don't change. It's because they perceive the current cost as being greater than the future benefit. So this is where they're really hung up on the current cost of things. Oh no, I have to go to the gym, or I have to eat nutritious food, or I have to wake up 2 hours earlier to study, or whatever it is. It's whatever that kind of, we perceive the current sacrifice as being greater than the future benefit we get from doing those things. And even though this is often a fallacy, because if we actually did those things and did them consistently, the future us would be incredible. It's kind of a fallacy because I don't think our minds are able to wrap around the time. It's about the time. It's about what's right in front of us versus what just feels really far away from us. And because of that, even though the future benefit is so much greater maybe than the current cost, we aren't able to see that because it feels so far off. We're so fixated on what we think we're giving up right now. And so this is why people don't change, because they're they're trying to force themselves to do something that they really don't want to do. And deep down, they're upset about it because they're like, I don't want to be doing this. They're trying to kind of like will themselves. It's this whole willpower thing. I'm going to will myself to change these habits for a little while so that future me can, be better. But I just don't think most of us are able to do that. We might be able to do it in certain areas of our life. I think there are certain areas of our lives that it's a little bit easier. We're not all built the same. So like for me, for example, it's easy for me to go to the gym. I love going to the gym, but there are other habits that are more challenging for me. So people don't change when they're at war with themselves over the current cost in order to become the future version. They see the current cost as higher, right? And so the next equation, and this is where I see a lot of, personal development teachers, mindset, trainers, anybody I see who's kind of promoting a positive message for change. This is where I see a lot of people where they're kind of promoting this idea that, okay, future benefit is greater than current cost. So how can you trick yourself or work with yourself into believing that putting future you ahead of the current cost? So future benefit is greater than current costs. And how can you manipulate yourself, brainwash yourself, grapple with the perceived sacrifices that you're making? But how can you hold that vision of what you're becoming and hold it up and hold it in such high esteem that you're going to be motivated and you're going to be moving in the direction of that thing you want? And there definitely is tremendous value in this, because you want to spend time articulating the vision, creating the vision that you have for yourself, whether it's who you're going to be. I'm going to be a fit, healthy, strong, disciplined, or maybe I'm going to be creative, or whatever your idea of who you want to be, or maybe it's the life you have. You do need to spend time asking yourself, what is that vision? What do I want? Who do I want to be? So that you have something to shoot for. You have something to move in the direction of. And so this does help to really get up close and personal with your vision, and so that you can see the future benefit as being so much bigger than maybe current costs. This is why, like me, I've done vision boards. I write affirmations. I write goals. I spend time thinking about and visualizing what I'm going to be like in a year, 5 years. I was not always this way, let me tell you, but I do those things now. So that's where a lot of people on a growth journey are. But I think when you can step into this third resistance equation, this is where I think you get a lot more freedom and it becomes a lot more effortless. So the third one is when current benefit equals future benefit. And this is when you get to a point where you don't see a difference between the habits and daily actions and mindsets and all of that you're living now and the future you. They are not two separate things. They are one and the same. And when you get to that point, that is when it becomes effortless and you're not trying to push yourself or force yourself to behave in a way so that you can achieve something. Instead, you have found a way to fall in love with what you're doing today, what you're going to be doing tomorrow, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, to the extent that there is no difference. So if future benefit is I'm healthy, I'm active, I have a robust social life, I, own a business, whatever it is. I, have the XYZ healthy habits. When you can find a way to bring those into your current version in a way where it doesn't feel like you're trying to lay down the law on yourself to force yourself to do it so that one day you can become that person, but rather you're in love with what you're doing right now, then it becomes effortless and it happens so much faster because you're not doing the back and forth of okay, let me be good. Let me whip myself into shape. Let me do the things that I need to be doing so that one day I can be this other version, but I'm not that version yet. And so you're constantly warring with yourself over, not wanting to let go maybe of certain habits. You're feeling like FOMO already, thinking I don't want to let go of this because I love it, but if I don't let go of it, then I'm never going to become the person I want to be. So we wrestle with ourselves. But until you can kind of, back to the equation, find a way to see and feel and authentically see and feel the authentic benefit in what you're doing now, and then it's just a runway to that future, and it's just, they're one and the same. So back to my example of working out. I love to work out. So this is an example where I have for a long time had that runway where it's like I feel current benefit to such a degree. I love going to the gym. It promotes my physical health, my physique, just everything. I feel so positive when I go work out. In fact, I just got back from a killer workout this morning. So physically, mentally, confidence, all these things, I love it. I enjoy it. It's a hobby. So it's not painful. I'm not forcing myself to do it to try to achieve something in the future. So therefore, it's pretty effortless. Not to say there aren't days where I maybe don't feel like it, but it's become so ingrained in me, right? But there are definitely other habits where I'm still I can see that I'm warring with myself. Like I'm feeling that inner turmoil. And so this is a process of us working with ourselves, and it's mostly mindset shifts. I think a lot of times people go right to what they have to do in their external world, like the habits they need to change. Well, I just need to force myself to do this. But it is a lot also of the mindset work and the identity shifts and how do I see myself and how we're finding joy in the little things, how we're finding joy in the journey, the daily things that we're doing. And are we seeing those things as beneficial? Like, do we feel the benefit now? Do we feel the joy in those things? Do they feel easy? So this is a process I could go so much deeper in, but the more that you're able to fall in love with what you're doing now versus be in desperate hope for something in the future, the more that you're going to close the gap between who you are right now and who you want to be in the future. You will see them as one and the same. And this is also how you're going to navigate that resistance of the 72 degrees to 85 degrees, the more you're going to be able to close that gap. So, all right. I think that's all I have for this week. Thank you so much for listening.